And welcome back to Blackie's Bulldog Tavern here in Smithfield, home of the Mike Pressler Show. I'm Mike Mancuso, joined once again tonight by the head coach of the Bulldogs, Mike Pressler. And Coach, another busy week, multiple games for the third week in a row, and you're starting to come down the home stretch of the regular season. You guys have put together an 8-game winning streak as of right now. What's the mood been like at practice and in the locker room? Have you found that it's been harder or easier to keep your guys motivated and moving in the right direction?
I think the winning has made it easier. I think they're really hungry to get the next one. As I said to them today, I mean, this team practices well. Practice number 61 today, and I could honestly say there wasn't one time when I would say, God, these guys don't have it today, or I'm going to throw them out of the locker room, or something like that, which happens at least once or twice a year. And credit goes to the senior class, guys like Travis Harrington, Jamison Love, those guys. But they've been a joy to coach, and they want to do something that no other Bryant team has ever accomplished in the short Division I tenure, and we just want to keep enjoying this as long as we can.
Yep. And now, pretty much for most of the season, you've been alternating home games, road games. Right now, you're going to be in the midst of a 3-game road swing, and it continues this weekend. Game number 13 at Quinnipiac. It's going to be this Saturday, April 14th, 1 o'clock in Hamden, Connecticut. And, it's one of those teams that you guys don't have a winning record against, but you don't have a losing record against. You've played them twice, and they've both been very close one-goal games. Last year, you lost 13-12 at home, and they actually scored with zeros on the clock. Now, I didn't get to see that, but that's what it was listed as. And the previous year, you won 7-6 down at their place. But last year, you were up 8-4 at the half, and then they stormed back 9-4 in the second half, and they won the game right at the end. What lessons did you guys take from that game, and a game that you might have thought you had in hand, and then they stormed back?
As I look back, and I haven't relived that tape yet, but we just, we lost the game at the defensive end. And that was, to Quinnipiac's credit, that was a senior-laden team.
Yep.
They had a lot of veteran guys that have been around, especially at the offensive end. And I remember Trevor Sipley, we absolutely dominated the face-off and gave up 13 goals. And Jamison didn't have his best stuff. I didn't coach very well down at that end. And we give up the winner there with, 0-0. I'm not sure it should happen that way,
right.
But especially at home. But give them the credit they won. They went to the NEC final. We didn't. And but it's a very, very much a new Quinnipiac team this year than a year ago.
Yeah. Now this Quinnipiac team heading into the weekend, they're 3-6. They're 2-0 though in NEC play. They're tied with you guys and with Robert Morris in terms of the league. They do have a midweek game as well. They're playing at Harvard this week. Coming into the season, they were ranked number 4 out of 6 in the NEC, and they are the defending regular season co-champions. Of course, Mount St. Mary's went on to win the tournament. Early on the season, though, they started out 0-6, but all of a sudden they've started to pick it up and figure things out as they've won their last 3 games. They've beat Mount St. Mary's and Wagner. And, what do you see as being the basic book on Quinnipiac?
Well, I think they made a statement by going down to Mount and winning, beating them by 4 goals. Like I said, a lot of freshmen and sophomores, a new team. And Eric Feckett has done a great job keeping them very well grounded, very settled. They're not too high, they're not too low, and they're getting better, obviously. You lose 6 in a row, you win 3 in a row, and it's certainly a quality win at Mount. So they made a statement, again, that's going to be an NEC battle down there, and they have an interesting field. They have the old AstroTurf.
Okay, which is like Providence.
Very much like Providence, so and a surface we don't get a chance to practice on, so that'll be to their advantage, and that's a situation we got to react to in a positive way.
Yeah, well, at least you do have that experience of having played on the AstroTurf at Providence earlier this season, just a few games ago. You mentioned Coach Eric Feckett. He's in his 11th season. Do you have any history relationship with him?
I don't really know him that well, but I like Eric. He does a good job there. He kind of has built the program, I believe, and anytime you see a veteran team leave to graduation and then with all these newcomers and you start to get them going again, that's good coaching.
Yeah.
So Eric's done a fine job with all those young pups, so to speak, and we expect a formidable opponent down there in Hamden, Connecticut Saturday.
Yep. Now, I've had a chance to scout out a couple of their players, and as you mentioned, very young. They're led by a sophomore and 2 freshmen. Dylan Webster, a sophomore, 19 goals already on the season. That's 5th in the NEC. He's also the number 2 face-off man right now, winning 61% of his face-offs. I don't know if you've had a chance to see any of him on tape yet.
We saw him a year ago, very unorthodox Canadian.
Okay.
It's amazing to me that he can face off and play that much offense. He's got to be a fitness phenom that way. And then those two, we recruited the Sagal kid here unsuccessfully, and Deal was actually, I believe, going to Penn State. Okay. And then Penn State, with the coaching change, kind of cut him loose, and he ends up at Quinnipiac. But those are two outstanding freshman offensive players, and they have a lot of confidence right now. They face off well, and that'll be a challenging game for the Bryant Bulldogs down there Saturday.
Yep. And another big change they made this year was they have a freshman goalkeeper in Dylan Torrey. He comes in with a 10.37 goals against and saving just under 49% of the shots he's faced. So just, again, part of that young team that Quinnipiac has. Based on what you've seen so far out of them, what kind of game are you expecting?
You know, they're unorthodox. Expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
You know, they could have a little freshman relapse, so the freshmen could rise to the occasion. Dylan Webster's a fine player, a freshman goalie. You know, you've seen that go. They can go either way, hot or cold. We're expecting those guys to play very well. But this is a game that I just think defensively we got to get after them, and then offensively we just got to keep the pressure by winning face-offs.
Yeah.
The more offense we play against some of those freshmen, especially the goalie, the better off we're going to be.
And now, I know coming into the season, you had listed your own defense as a bit of a question mark because you had graduated pretty much to 3 starters from a season ago. How do you feel at this point in the season they've been doing?
We're getting better down there. You know, as I said to the team, we're doing a better job fighting in front of Jamison.
Yeah.
We're playing harder in front of him. We've changed our scheme. Our totally the way we play in the half-field defense is totally different than a year ago. You know, we're definitely more of a team concept. We don't leave anybody in an island out there.
Yeah.
We're going to slide, you know, recover, and then match up and cover again. That's kind of our theme, and our guys bought into it, and we're doing a good job, and we're getting better.
Now, offensively on the season in NEC play, you guys are number 2 at just under 11 goals per game. Quinnipiac comes in at number 5 at just over 9. But Colin Dunster's really emerged here as a sophomore. 26 goals already, number 3 in the NEC. What are your thoughts on him so far at this point?
Just a tremendous athlete that has bought into everything that Brad Ross has taught him. He is probably one of the most coachable young men I've ever been around. He listens, he does it right. Colin's not a very emotional guy, but he's a very thorough guy. He great listener, very coachable, as I mentioned, and really adheres to what Coach Ross says to him individually at the offensive end, and it's paying off.
And now some other categories that you guys have been very good in the NEC. You're number 1 in defensive scoring, giving up just over 8 goals per game. Ground balls, number 1 not only in the NEC but in the entire country. And also first in caused turnovers. So again, proving that the defense really getting after it. As you look at this game against Quinnipiac, what do you think is going to be the biggest factor in producing a win, and also the perhaps X factor going into this game?
Biggest factor is going to be our experience, maybe against their inexperience in a big conference game. Hopefully that'll be on our side of the ledger. We got to play more people, a little more depth, and they play a much shorter lineup, I think, than we play. And Kevin Mass is going to be really challenged by Dylan Webster. So I think that, you know, the X factor could be, you know, 2 great face-off guys going at it, and do they stalemate each other, or does one guy dominate the other?
Right.
We'll wait and see.
Yeah, and again, Massa coming off another Rookie of the Week performance in the NEC. And now the other factor with this game, it's another one of those high school trips where you're down and back in the same day, but it's also in the midst of this 3-game road trip. Does that, you know, affect the players in any way, going away from that alternating home and away, the fact that you're playing all these games on the road?
You know, you're a little more tired, I would think, you know, especially the midweek games take something out of you. But I think Quinnipiac's success has got our players' attention.
Yeah.
You know, all these young players that have risen up to win 3 in a row,
Right.
and when they beat Mount at Mount, our guys really took notice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bulldogs will be taking on the Quinnipiac Bobcats this weekend, 1 o'clock on Saturday down in Hamden, Connecticut. If you have some time this weekend, definitely worth checking out. Coach, thanks again for being on the show. We hope you could join us next week here on the Mike Pressler Show on Cox Sports Television.